the name is Evans, and I guess we're going to check out.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi, Kimberly.
Kimberly.
To meet you.
Who is this? Oh,
This is the meeting.
Oh.
There's John.
I'm Francesca. I'm taking Claire Riggs' position, or filling in, I guess, in the
You want to
interim.
pull up the chair. This is going to be riveting.
Yeah.
Mike is here, but he doesn't
Mike
have a
is here.
camera.
Here, I'm just without camera.
Okay.
And then-
Cody,
You're done your hair.
And Inga.
There's Inga.
hello, Inga.
Your microphone is off.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Mike.
Hi. Except you can't see me.
How are you today, Inga?
Well, I'm doing well. Hey, there's Dennis.
Dennis.
Oh my goodness. Yay.
Conference will automatically end in 30 seconds.
Sorry.
What
I'm
was that?
going. This was the turbo bridge.
Oh. Do we know if the AMP person is here?
Kodiak, he's
Oh, that's,
here.
yeah, Kodiak, right. Sorry. There you are. Good.
So, yes.
Conference ending. Goodbye.
Interesting.
So we're gearing up for, there's going to be a large protest on Colton Hall lawn tomorrow.
Peaceful
At
protest.
noon. Yes, that's what we're hoping, a peaceful protest, but just in case, we're securing a number of art pieces and artifacts.
Is this a protest to keep all the museums and employees open?
That would be great to see 2,000 people on the lawn protesting that Colton Hall's closed.
Dennis's microphone is muted.
He's working with
Okay.
a telephone.
Oh, okay.
John, can you hear me? This is Claire.
There's Claire. Hello,
Hi,
Claire.
Claire. Welcome.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm good. I just finished watching PBS News, so I'm ready to take this meeting.
Yeah, our daily schedules have really changed, haven't they?
They really have. We're just all trying to get outdoors a little bit, do our social distancing, and get that exercise out there and fresh air. So.
Hello. That's John Castagna.
Yes.
Ah,
Hi, John.
He's got his mute on.
There,
There
I'm
you
muted.
go.
Yeah, I'm used to Zoom. This is not Zoom. Okay.
and then to see everybody, I just want to make sure that you know how to get the gallery view. Those far right lower three dots that are stacked upon one another. And if you click on that and then click on change layout,
Yes.
it'll show everybody.
Hey, Bill.
Tiled
Child,
view.
I guess. I still don't see me.
You
Oh,
should
you're-
be in the top right-hand corner.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Why am I so small?
Because you know
You're
who
not on
you are.
everybody else's, just on your own.
Okay. I'll get used to it.
Yes.
So we haven't seen Nat or Hans yet.
Hans, on the invite, he declined. Matt
Oh,
did
okay.
say he would make it, but he didn't say when, so.
You shouldn't be eating in front of everybody.
And we are going to do the 5-second countdown before we begin, as a reminder. And then commissioners will be doing the verbal roll call. So feel free if you want to have your microphone unmuted at the beginning, just for the quick. Here's Nat.
Oh, good. I was just gonna text him.
And then Kathleen Wall.
I don't see her. There are two people. More people.
Right, that K stands for Bill.
Right.
Yes. Hi, Bill.
He must be muted.
Bill, are you there?
He's muted.
Do you have his cell phone to text potentially in the chance, just so before we start live that he'll be able to verbally say he's here?
I don't have his, oh, maybe I do.
I don't see Kathleen's name in the list. People who are on now.
I don't see her either. And we did do a test call together. Nat, I had a question regarding Turbo Bridge. If nobody calls in, it looks like there's a 30-minute, there's Kathleen.
There's Kathleen.
Hi.
Hi,
Great.
Kathleen.
Hi. Welcome.
Yeah,
Is there a way to extend the time before it automatically turns off?
You know, I don't know of one, but here's what I'll do. I'll call in just that way there's someone else on the line.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Or, okay, we'll see. Thank you. And then Bill is the only person that we haven't yet heard, right? Or has he spoken?
I don't see him in the list.
Oh, I see him.
Or Kathy Wachowski, and she's muted.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can he change his, can we change his name? I mean, I guess,
And I'm listed as a Hasse Spiker, but I'm not sure why. I think because I registered with Google that way.
okay.
a long time ago.
I don't know.
Maybe you as the moderator can unmute her.
Bill. Oh, there's Kathy. Great.
Bill's
Oh, perfect. Hi, Kathy.
Oh,
That was great. We saw the microphone going off and on. We just want to make sure that.
okay. The micro, you hear Bill?
Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
Alrighty.
Good. We can hear you.
okay. There's Bill.
Great.
I think that's everybody.
So it sounds like I've just received a text message. We are actually live, and we've been live for the last 4 minutes. So whenever we're ready to start the meeting, just so you're aware, we can start.
Do
First,
we have
can
a
you
gavel?
give us a little overview as to how we're supposed to do this? How do we get everybody on screen here?
So down in the
Francesca?
bottom right-hand corner, there are 3 dots. And
Okay,
if you click on those dots, there'll be a display option that says, oh, change layout. So you want to click on that. And then you want to click the option that says tiled. Do you
That's
see that?
good. So it says we have 14 people. Do we have 14 people? Yeah, I guess so. Okay.
Right.
I'm so into Zoom that I only know how to do Zoom. Okay, good. Thank you. Good.
Okay.
Okay. Chair O'Neill, then you can go ahead and call the meeting to order, and then I'll do roll call.
Okay, do we need the 5-second countdown, or are we already recording?
Yes, we are recording.
Okay. Then I'd like to call the meeting to order, 4:05 PM. And ask Francesca to please call the roll.
Chair O'Neill,
Here?
Sound like John O'Neill? Yeah.
Vice Chair Votowski,
Here.
Commissioner Castagne,
Here.
Commissioner Peak,
Present.
Commissioner Sovereign,
Here.
Commissioner Wall,
Here.
Commissioner Evans.
Here.
Cool.
Okay.
Good, we're all here.
Hail,
The
hail.
first item is to recognize the retirement of Dennis and Claire.
Right. So I just wanted to say a few things. So Claire Rigg has been with us for 13 years, and it was certainly 13 very lucky years for the city and the museums. Claire has done an amazing job. When she applied, she had a letter of recommendation where a person said that she can take on any task, no matter how daunting, and make a success of it. And I think that pretty much sums up her career. She took on myriad tasks during the time that she was with us, including coordinating the PBL volunteers, chairing these meetings, being our front desk, and doing the minutes, and I believe decorating for all the different holidays, coordinating volunteers for that, and on and on and on. And above and beyond all of it, she's just always been courteous, friendly, welcoming, the person that everybody wants to talk to and wants to meet. And so she's just been a great public face for museums and cultural arts, and big loss for us to have her retire, but I know that she has a lot on her plate, a lot she's going to be doing, and we might even be able to get her to come back and help out a little bit in her retirement. So huge thank you to Claire. If commissioners wanted to say anything, I would encourage everybody to chime in at this point.
We go alphabetically or what?
I think it's up to you, just whoever wants to jump in there first.
Let's start with you, John.
Okay, well, Claire, of course, when I think of her contribution to our commission, the word that comes to mind is steady. Whenever there's a question or ripple in the meeting, she's the one that knows how things should run. And how gracious she's been over the years, tolerant, and just a real nice person. And so I think we'll all miss her, and I hope we can lure her back as a volunteer. Next.
Well, I certainly will miss Claire being there. She's, as John said, she's the steady one, but the institutional memory is just, it's tragic that we're losing that. And that's why if there's any way that we can lure her back part-time, I think that would be wonderful. But as one who's been retired several times, you get very busy in retirement. And so she may not have time for us, which will be very unfortunate. Next.
I'll just say
Anyone else?
that I'm very grateful for everything you've given, Claire, and we'll especially miss the sandwiches at the PBL. So thank you for those.
And I would concur with all the comments and just hope that you have a great, great retirement, Claire.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Claire. I'm sorry, I'm still having trouble with this. Are you actually there, Claire, or just your picture?
My picture's there.
Okay.
But I'm listening to everything, yes.
All right, good. Well,
Kind of like a telephone.
all the help you've given to all of us and me in particular. I've been sort of in and out with my foot problem, but I guess I haven't been the only one. That you've sort of kept us all taken care of us all, kept us all focused, and so we got the work of the commission done. Thanks to you and Dennis and Charlene, all of you. So anyway, I wish you the best, and I will miss you personally.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can the public make comment?
Yes.
I'd like
Well,
to say a few things.
This is Dennis. As all of you know, nothing happened in museums and cultural arts without Claire's steady influence and care, dedication, and civic pride. I just want to take this opportunity, along with the commissioners, to thank Claire for all that she's done, coordinating, scheduling our great history docents, and coordinating them, preparing and checking so many reports, permits, and so much more. She has been not only the administrative assistant for the museums, she's been a great support for me and the commission, and I always will remember all that Claire has done, and I hope to see her during her retirement.
Thank you, Dennis. That's very nice.
Is there anyone
I'd like
else?
to say that she's really the personification of the staff for us. She always knows what's going on, who to talk to if we need help, and how to get things moving when we are having a difficult time. So that's been just a really great help for us. She's wonderful.
Thank you.
I think Claire kept it all straight and narrow. I've been very impressed with her clerical skills. The papers that she prepared for the meetings, the minutes. I can't imagine anyone could have done a better job. And my experience in government and a couple other things is the person who writes the minutes is the most important person, because if they get it right, everything goes well. If we don't record what we've done well, then it's very difficult to continue. And I've just been very impressed, and I should not have been surprised, and I know she was in the Navy and she learned well, and she's still a consummate professional. And Claire, I wish you fair winds and following seas in your new career.
Thank you. Yeah.
So our other retiree, of course, is.
I'm sorry, before you
Sure.
I do want to say a few words about Claire, because I've only been with the city of Monterey for the last year, and I've just truly always enjoyed Claire's positive attitude and her hellos and just seeing her around the City Hall campus. It's just wonderful to see, and her involvement and engagement and connection with the staff goes beyond the museums and cultural arts team and the museum and the library team. But for example, Claire played a very much a leadership role in organizing and being part of the employee commute team to encourage transportation, alternative transportation this last year, which won Her team won an award through the Transportation Agency for Monterey County. So kudos to Claire on that. And I really enjoyed the little bit of time I had a chance to get to know Claire and work with her through the Christmas at the Adobe. So on behalf of the city manager's office, really, and myself personally, really wanted to thank Claire for years of service and wish we had a chance to work together for a longer period of time.
Thank you, Nat.
Thank you, Nat. So our second retiree, and his career is very, very difficult to sum up, is Dennis Copeland. He's been with the city for 21 years. About half of that was working with the library on our California History Room. And then about 10 years ago, he took over management of museums and cultural arts and the leadership there. And then more recently, when Kim Bowie Burton left the city, he was the community services director for a while, acting director, and oversaw harbor and conference center and parking and recreation and parks and a whole slew of things in addition to his work with museums and cultural arts. So he has just been an amazing, amazing individual to work with. I think we all know the extreme depth of his knowledge of California history, or we know of it. We don't actually know the depth. I don't think there is a bottom to it. It seems to be infinite, his knowledge. And talk about institutional memory. Very, very, very hard to say goodbye to Dennis. And he's done so many important projects for museums and cultural arts, so many grants, so many NCIP projects to preserve Colton Hall, all the work he did on the lower Presidio. And we really hope we can lure him back as a retired annuitant. And I would promise him that he can work on the projects that interest him most, because he has always, always had such a very full plate that it would be great to have him come back and work on just the things that we need that he's the most interested in. So thank you, Dennis. It's been wonderful to work with you, and I can't really imagine museums and cultural arts without you.
Oh, thank you.
Let's see, am I next?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
First time I met Dennis, he was in his Mickey Mouse outfit, bringing over Sanford maps for me to scan in the old building. And from there, I got to volunteer and work with him almost 20 years, 18 years now, scanning old photographs, which has been one of the most enriching and enjoyable things I've done in my entire retirement. And so I've been very grateful to him. And talk about institutional memory. He is the memory. We need to preserve him somehow, maybe in formaldehyde, I don't know. But we really need to continue to draw on his knowledge and expertise as time goes on. And I hope he will be coming back to help us in the coming years. So Dennis, I'll miss working with you.
Oh, thank you, John.
Oh, Dennis, I shared an office right next to Jim Conway, and I didn't think there was a person more dedicated to the history and the culture and just everything about Monterey. And then, of course, you came along and took over his place. And I just want to thank you so much. You've added so much to the community, to the department, to the commission. And I want to especially thank you for all your help and your perseverance for dealing with that damn army at the lower Presidio. So really, I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Bill.
Well, I would certainly second all of the previous accolades. I'm not sure how we're going to get along without Dennis. In being involved with the NIP and other parts of the city, I know that when the most recent city engineer retired, the whole organization of NIP kind of fell apart. And I'm afraid that without Dennis, we're sort of lost in the woods. And so I think it's absolutely critical that we keep him engaged and involved. Otherwise, I think it's going to be really tough to keep the momentum and all of the projects that have been and are underway, and without somebody directing those, nothing's going to happen. And so cultural arts and the museum operation is likely to fade, and that's exactly the wrong thing to happen at this time if we're a visitor facing and encouraging city, and if historical tourism is important these days, then we absolutely have to have that kind of knowledge and direction. And so I think we've got to talk him into coming out of retirement, frankly. And I'd like the city to find the funds to do that, because I think if they don't, then we're in serious trouble.
I'd like to second Bob's thought there that, this is just a terrible loss. Dennis has kept things going when, it's often been very hard, and he manages to soothe enough feathers around the organizations and keeps recruiting good volunteers that we just, don't know how to replace him, in my opinion. And working with the commission, this is a difficult setup we have, where he is titularly ahead of the commission in some sense, but has to get a herd of cats to move in a coordinated fashion. And I know I certainly have been one who's sometimes hard to herd.
Thank you, Bob and Mike. Great.
Any other comments?
Yeah, let me just chime in. Thank you, Dennis. You've been an inspiration. I wanted to be on this commission because I love the history of Monterey and California. And you have led the way, and I have learned from you, and you love it a lot. And so I hope to continue on the path that you've been leading us. So thank you for everything you've done for the commission.
Well, thank you, Kathleen.
You're welcome.
If I could share a few thoughts, Dennis, you and I we met each other, I think, 14 years ago or so, when I had the privilege of being on the Historic Monterey Committee, representing the Convention and Visitors Bureau. And, I've always been passionate with historic Monterey and historic resources, and always thought, Dennis, that you've just been, when I grow up, I want to be like Dennis. That's really what really inspirational. The way that you're able to connect history and how that relates to today is just, I haven't seen anyone be able to do that in a way that like you can do it. So really appreciate all of your leadership, your years of service, similar to Claire. Wish we had a chance to work together for a longer period of time, but do look forward to keeping in touch. We know where you live. We know you live here in Monterey. You're a part of our community, and want to keep you engaged. And wish you the best during your retirement. But you will be missed. And as the commissioners mentioned, your departure is a true loss to the city.
Thank you, Nat. I would like to say, if it's possible, to say a few words just to the commission. I just want to take this moment to thank each and every one of you for your support and contributions over the years during our time together. We fulfilled so many goals and missions of the Museums and Cultural Arts Commission. And there's just so many events projects from Battle of Monterey to the Lower Presidio Historic Park interpretation and on and on with Copeland Hall, so many and music and art projects over the years. And I particularly appreciate the initiatives we were able to take to expand and expand heritage tourism for Monterey. As many of you know, we all had plans to go further with that, and go further with other projects, but there will be a day to fulfill the historic tourism or the heritage tourism project too. So once again, from my heart, thank you.
Dennis, I'd like to thank you also. I share the concerns of the other commissioners. It's going to be very difficult to replace you and Claire. The institutional memory is can be fleeting when somebody leaves like this. And I'm really concerned about how we will rebuild museums, history, and cultural arts when we can open up again. It's going to be a lot of work involved, and if we don't have the benefit of your experience, it will be doubly difficult. Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure working with you.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
And I just wanted to say to the commissioners too, I wanted to thank you. It's been a pleasure to work with you in these past few years, and you all work together really well. And I hope you continue your good work and productive work with the community. And I want to say you're in good hands with Inga and Francesca. And thanks again, and you all continue to be well.
Thank you. Very nice.
Thank you, Claire.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
And Dennis.
Yeah, no pressure, Inga and Francesca. No, fine, you'll be fine. We'll help you.
Thank you.
You have an excellent captain of the ship and her assistant, so you can rely on them.
Thank you, Dennis.
Good to know.
Yes.
Are there any more comments we'd like to make at this point?
I will.
Where's the plaque? Where are the plaques?
Yes.
Where are the clowns?
The keys to the city or the city seal or something.
At this point, they're virtual.
Yeah.
And just in the chance there is somebody watching that would like to make a public comment, we can open the public comment period for this. For anyone watching that would like to call in, you can dial 831-225-0330. You can enter 1927648 followed by the pound sign. When you do call in, you're automatically muted. And again, for anybody watching that would like to make public comments, it's best to follow along on the YouTube live stream as it has the shortest delay. And while we wait a moment, I will also give my deep gratitude and thanks to Dennis and Claire. It's been a sincere pleasure and joy. I had the opportunity to work quite close to Dennis, and every opportunity I had the chance to learn from him, I grabbed it and seized it, and I am eternally grateful, and I look forward to your return and wish you both a wonderful next chapter, of course, with coming back to be with us often. So right now, there are no callers.
Okay, thank you. Then to close out this part of our agenda, Claire and Dennis, thank you very much. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve with you and have you lead the commission through our meetings and all of our activities. And I sincerely hope we get to do something again in the future. You're very nice people, in addition to being very professional and knowledgeable. It's been a great pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Our next item.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes of the last meeting.
Which was when?
February.
Thank you.
Sad?
When was that?
Oh, a millennium ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here.
Your last meeting was February 24th of 2020.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any comments or questions on the minute?
I move acceptance.
Second,
Thank you. Have a second?
yes. Evans,
Bob?
yes.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Okay, thank you. All those in favor?
And Chair
Aye.
O'Neill, we actually have to do a verbal roll call as well on this one.
Okay, please,
So Chair-
Francesca.
Thank you, Chair O'Neill. Vice Chair
Aye.
Wotowski.
I abstained because I was absent.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Castagna,
Yes.
Commissioner Evans,
Yes,
Commissioner Peak,
Abstain, I was absent.
Commissioner Sovereign,
Yes.
Commissioner Wall.
Yes.
Thank you.
The minutes are approved. Thank you all very much. And now I'd like to open the meeting up to any public comment on any subjects not on the agenda today. And there may be a little
anyone-
delay, so we'll-
Yes, and we'll just remind viewers again, this information should be on your screen, that you can call 831-225-0330. Enter the number 1927648, followed by the pound sign. Callers are automatically muted upon entry. Then you can dial *5 to be placed in the queue to speak. So again, that number is 831-225-0330, followed by the number 1927648, followed by the pound sign. And as of right now, there are no callers.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
So
you.
we'll return to the commission and proceed with the next agenda item. And that is to receive a report on the activities since the 24th of February.
Right,
Inga,
so-
are you? Yeah.
So
Okay.
this is probably a longer report than you're used to, because it covers such a long period of time, and starts out in the usual way, covering statistics for each of the museums, and has some nice photographs of tours to school children, and great photographs of docents at PBL, and some nice charts that show you just how amazingly popular the facilities are, and some great quotes from appreciative attendees. And then from there, you start hearing about how in March, mid-March, the city manager declared this emergency, and then the facilities that serve the public were closed because of COVID-19 as a precautionary measure. And then shortly after that, the county declared, put in their health order in place, and the state. And so from then on, you see a chronology of all the different steps that occurred during shelter in place. So starting on, for instance, packet page 18, we sort of have a step-by-step chronology of all the activities where first the closure and then all the information about the budget becoming more and more dire, and information coming out from human resources. So first our volunteers stopped working, then all of the part-time seasonal employees had to stop working, and then the museum staff, the 3 museum staff were telecommuting, and then the layoff decision was made by City Council on April 29th, and then it takes you through to the retirement of Claire and Dennis and the layoff of Delay's position. So, are there comments and questions about any portions of this report?
I had 2 questions.
Sure.
On the bottom of page 6, it talked about the Path of History Master Plan. I
Yes.
worked with Elizabeth and walked various parts of downtown Monterey, and I just wondered, is that project still going to be able to go ahead? And is it possible that we can get a copy of the draft plan?
So at this point, the plan was being worked on by Elizabeth, was taking the lead, and then Dennis was working with her. I'm sure we can share a copy of the draft. Now, Elizabeth was a part-time seasonal, and those hours have not been removed from next year's budget. And so that is possible to bring her back. And then, of course, we might be able to talk Dennis into providing some guidance there as well.
So the commission can get a copy of the draft plan?
Yes.
Thank you. And my other comment is on page 7, 3rd paragraph from the bottom, it talks about another pamphlet called the Lower Presidio Historic Park Monuments. Being involved with the Old Monterey Foundation, I would love a copy of that. In fact,
Okay.
I think all the commissioners would, but I would
Sure.
really love one. Thank you.
Okay. I have seen that pamphlet, and it's amazing the number of monuments that are on that site. So I'll make sure that you all get an electronic copy of the pamphlet of the Lower Presidio Historic Museum monuments.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
To follow up on Bill's question about the path of history, in addition to getting a copy, is that something that should be on the agenda for a future meeting so it can be discussed in more detail than simply reading man?
Yes.
I've noticed a number of things in the time that I've been on the commission that we're surprised by. As other commissions are, as I talk to other commissioners on different commissions, the city doesn't necessarily run this by all the commissions that have an interest in what projects are going on.
Yes,
until they're done.
Yeah.
So if we could put it on the agenda, I would appreciate that.
Okay, and Chair O'Neill, are you suggesting that the draft at some point should be run past the other commissions that would be interested in this work?
At some point, I feel that all the commissions that have something to do with the path of history, maybe historic preservation, because they're going to be pointing out buildings that they have worked on or designated as historic. And my fear is that when an isolated group or person works on something without coordinating, say, with us or historic preservation, they may not have all the information that they should be aware of.
Yes. Okay, great. Thank you.
I'd like to ask a question on the packet, page 14. It notes that the Claire and Dennis talked with the Corps of Engineers and the people at the Presidio in terms of, fulfillment of the lease and so forth. We still, last I knew, had the collapsed stables decorating that area. I'd like to know if there's any real progress towards getting those at least torn down, if not replaced.
Right. So I can give you an update on the status of the stables at on our next meeting. I know that there was a discussion with, I believe that it's been approved to be removed, and then there was discussion with city staff regarding procedures, and then of course this was all before the unprecedented and humongous budget crisis, and I think that's really going to change what our staff across the city is able to do. So, but I can definitely, I'll give you an update.
The other thing is right below that, there's a note about part of the staff working with security contractors to test the security at the various museums. From past experience, when you get something like this shutdown, things are likely to start disappearing. And I sure hope that we do have a procedure for regularly checking the status of the buildings and the exhibits.
Yeah, I have a schedule. So I should reassure you that the museum staff are very thorough. They gave me a lot of documents. They gave me a checklist to follow. I've checked on Presidio Museum, the jail, Colton Hall, the vault. So I have my rounds that I'm doing.
Thank you.
Yes.
Do we have any other comments or questions from the commission? Then I'd like to open it for public comment on this agenda item, if there is anyone from the public.
Sure. And again, viewers of the public may call in to comment by dialing 831-225-0330. You'll then enter the number 1927648, followed by the pound sign. Callers are automatically muted upon entry. And one more time, that phone number is 831-225-0330. And the number to enter is 1927648, followed by the pound sign.
Francesca, I'm impressed you have that memorized. How many times have you had to say that?
I shall admit that I don't have it memorized yet, but I will soon.
No, you were supposed to agree with me. You look like you had that memorized.
And
so do we have anyone calling
there are
in
no
that
calls.
you can see?
No calls.
All right.
Thank you, Charonia.
Then we'll close public comment on this agenda item, and there's no action required. We're receiving this report, so thank you very much, Inga, for the report.
You're welcome. Well, I must say that Claire, Dennis, and Chalet wrote most of it, and so we really appreciate them for doing such a thorough job, keeping such great record of everything that developed between February and now.
Well, then we'll thank Mike and Claire and Chalet too.
Yes.
We know we're gonna miss them. Our next agenda item is to receive a report on the proposed budget reductions staffing for the museums and cultural arts division.
Yes.
Yes. Are you going to?
So
Yep.
I'll walk you through it, and then we have Nat here who can also, maybe Nat could actually start off by just describing for us sort of setting the context of the extent of the budget devastation for the city of Monterey.
Okay, I would be happy to, and I know that many of you are probably already aware of how severe the fiscal impact of COVID-19 has had on our community. It's truly been unprecedented, and I think we've overused the term devastating, but it really is, because it has forced us to make very difficult choices and difficult decisions that have resulted in temporary layoff of a number of our dedicated city staff members, some who've been part of our team for multiple decades. And the loss in just 3.5 months, so between mid-March through the end of this month, June, is expected to exceed $13 million alone. Next year, minimum loss of $18 million is what we're estimating, and that's $31 million in 2 years out of a $83 million general fund budget that we have on an annual basis, and it's a lot. And given how streamlined we were and have been as a city, we didn't have a lot of fat to cut, frankly, in the organization. We worked very hard, long hours, and to have to cut $31 million out of our biennial budget is not an easy task. So as we have been, we continue to be focused on a number of efforts. We filled our reserves in February to the required 16.6% level. We approved voters. Thank you to all the voters for approving Measure G, the sales tax measure, but that still causes that $31 million deficit. And so our services, public safety, we've got police, fire, public works, having to maintain those efforts, and then trying to figure out how do we continue to fund and secure funding for parks and recreation. We have Schulte Park Center, Hilltop Park Center, Casanova Oak Knoll Park Center, Youth Center, the Monterey Sports Center, of course, our beloved California Source Library, and then, of course, the museums that are beloved and valued in our community as well. So what we've done is produce a budget proposal to the City Council that allows us to bring back a number of services. And what Inga will share with you today is a plan and an effort that would allow us to at least provide the core services and allow us to, as we've discussed here, continue to monitor and ensure that our historic resources are protected and maintained and preserved. And then she's got a plan on how we can have Colton Hall as one of our many treasured museums here in the city, open to the public for public access that we all cherish. But at the end of the day, it's going to require, as Inga will share with you, collaboration and input from all of you, as well as a partnership with other nonprofit organizations and community members that can help support these services that we all love and cherish. So with that introduction, I'd like to hand it off to Inga to discuss and share more details. Inga?
Thank you, Nat. Thank you. So as we were getting ready for this coming fiscal year, the budget had already been adopted because we're in a 2-year budget cycle. So the museums had a budget that for this coming year of $372 $608. So that was sort of what we were all anticipating. Then in April, because of this precipitous loss of funds, the $13 million shortfall, positions were laid off. So the 3 regular museums positions were laid off and or identified for layoff. And then each city department, whether they had layoffs or not, was asked to look at 5, 10, and 15% reductions and what those would entail. So I sat down with the museum staff and we looked at the basically supplies and services budget and identified an additional $13,768 to remove from the budget. And that was thinking, given the staffing losses, given COVID-19 and not knowing when social distancing restrictions would be lifted, what could we reasonably do? What could we, what services that we normally provide could we provide? And when you think about the mission of the museums, it's to share Monterey's stories, serving as places of learning, inspiration, and engagement with our history and cultural heritage. And I would say, since I know the libraries best, museums and libraries are both about people gathering and sharing and exchanging and that sort of thing. So when you look at COVID-19, you ask, can you have concerts? Can you have art openings? Can you have school groups visiting your museum? Can you do tours of PBL? So those were the sorts of questions we had in mind, not knowing yet how quickly or not the restrictions were going to be lifted for social distancing. So those were the kinds of questions we had in mind as we were, and I think Dennis is showing his screen, or somebody's showing. Dennis, did you realize you're presenting your screen?
And Dennis, you need to answer some of those emails.
Yeah, what else is on there?
Very colorful homepage there. Okay, so thank you. So the museum staff and I looked at what we could reduce, and there's certain things you can't reduce from your budget, like the charges, they're interdepartmental charges, the charges from ISD, which can't be removed, and that's your technology. And then there's also some other things like that that are charges from one department to the next. So anyway, so this brought the proposed budget down by 59%, since so much of the budget is staffing. Then additional 13,000 brought it to a 59.1% reduction, or a proposed budget of $152,383 for fiscal year 2021. So that's the number that the city council is considering for museums. So what would we be able to do with that amount? And the notion, of course, is as the city's income improves, as things get better, there will be times when we can go back to council and say, given that there's been improvement, we request, and then can ask for more to be put back into museum's budget again. So if you look at packet page 22, that shows the short-term staffing plan. So what can we do with this budget of approximately $150,000? Well, we do have our PTS positions. So in the past, we've run Colton Hall with our docents that are paid as part-time seasonal. And so that budget is there for them. And then also we have the Ferguson Fund, which is used for a, where is it called? The artifact specialist, and when you start bringing back, when you start filling PTS positions, you need to ask the laid off employees first. So Chalet would get the first opportunity to come back as a part-time seasonal, and that doesn't kick her off the list. If we're able to restore her position, she could still get her position back. So if you imagine bringing Chalet back, even on a part-term basis, and if you imagine bringing Jordan back, who I hope many of you know, he was a museums docent and then he became the artifact specialist. Then you've got somebody who really knows the cultural arts side of our work, and you know somebody who's very passionate about history and has studied at the, what do they call that? Studied under Dennis. So at his side. So I think we would be in pretty good shape with them, and that would enable us to then, with the other docents, try to reopen Colton Hall. Let's see. So now I'm on packet page 23. So during this interim time, of course, I will be assuming more sort of daily oversight of the division operations. And we have the wonderful support from Francesca, who will do some of the administrative work. And then so Dennis started a whole tradition of very great and strong partnerships with other like organizations. So we have a lot of knowledge within our community from state parks, from the National Trust, from the diocese, and I'm going to be attending those meetings. And so we've got a lot of great professional resources there. So there's sort of a safety net of other professionals that know about artifacts preservation, that sort of thing, that we're very lucky to have in our community as well. So then I mentioned what we might do with Colton Hall. So as the governor's health permits, we could reopen using our strict social distancing protocols, but we wouldn't be having, we probably couldn't open as many hours as we have been. So that was one of the questions that Bill had asked previously, was what do we do about the fact that in the city code, it says we're open so many days, only closed 3 days a year. So that's something that we need to figure out. And then of course the commission can determine the number of hours that we're open. So I think we would need to reduce the amount of hours we're open and probably days we're open, with the understanding that that's a temporary thing until we have a more robust staff. So for the Presidio's been run by volunteers. We just need the person that kind of coordinates that and makes sure those volunteers are trained, are willing to come back. It's possible that some of the volunteers won't want to come back until they feel much safer with social distancing and so forth. But it's possible, if we have the artifacts specialist position, which is funded with funds especially for Presidio, that we can bring our volunteers back. I think for the Pacific Biological Labs, however, that we would sort of be very careful about that, because it's such a small enclosed space, and we would have to it would depend on what we have in terms of our docents wanting to do tours again, and what kind of staffing we have, and do we have the capacity really to oversee those tours again. And with the Alvarado Gallery, what Chalet had recommended was for this coming year to just leave some of the city art displayed there and not have our gallery openings, because that's a very staff intensive activity to hang shows and so forth, and all the publicity that's involved. And but if staffing improves, then we could do that. So that's the short-term plan. Did people have questions about that short-term plan before? I hate being the one that's just talking and everybody has to be quiet. So please chime in.
I have a
Yes.
question, Inga. In
Thank
that, when you discuss those museums, you say could. Say this
Right.
Friday, the county says you're allowed to open museums. Will
Yes.
we open Fulton Hall and the Presidio Museum?
So what I know from experience is that you cannot have a laid off person come back as part-time this fiscal year. That was my experience with the library. But what we could, so we have to contact Chalet and say, Chalet, we have some part-time hours for you. Would you be willing to come back July 1? And then see if she's able to. If she's able to, then we know we've filled one of our part-time positions, and then we can go down the list and invite others to come back.
My point is, and I've talked to Frank Geisler of the Monterey Chamber of Commerce Bureau, is that I think I've heard from Hans that we're not going to have conferences for the next 5 to 6 months. I think we will have tourists. People want to get out of dense, areas like San Jose, maybe even Fresno when it heats up. So I think it is. I think it is very important. I know we did a survey and it showed that the museums weren't that important to locals, which I would disagree with. But museums are very important to tourists, a certain segment of tourists. So I would encourage. I mean, the Colton Hall Museum has part-time staff there without Chalet. So I would just hope that we would be able to coordinate and have the museums open as quickly as possible, coordinate with state parks, with Monterey History and Art and Casa Serrano. I mean, we're losing the Museum of Art right downtown. They're not coming back to downtown. So it'd be nice to have a core of museums in the downtown area that are open and our visitors can go see.
Yes. Is that how other commissioners feel as well?
Yes.
I think so. When it's we're authorized to open, I would think it's especially Colton Hall as a kind of the most historic thing there is. We should open that as soon as we can. And I like the idea of coordinating this with other museums. Maybe we can come up with a plan where they're not all open every day, but we maximize the time that all the museums are open, so the people who come here and expect to go to museums have some information and they can go to all of the museums they want to go to.
So you're not suggesting that it be offset. So, on Mondays, Colton Hall's open, but on Tuesdays, State Parks is open, but more that we would sort of have the same schedule so that people who are interested in local history could do their tour.
I don't know enough to pick the day, but I would think that if we had a meeting of the people who owned or operated these museums, and we have some information about when the tourists are typically in town to do those things, that we make sure we're open on those days.
Okay.
Yeah, museums typically are not open on Mondays in a lot of cities, which is often disappointing if that happens to be the day that you're there. It would seem to me that certainly Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday would be important days to have the museum open. And I think we should look at trying to keep the Lower Presidio Museum open. We've tried to do a fair amount of publicity about the Lower Presidio. We have this brochure about all the monuments there and whatnot, and so it would seem to be a natural to have that one open to complement the monuments.
Right. And
Is it? Sorry. Is it clear about, are there announcements about the 4th of July? Is everything canceled for 4th of July? Okay.
Yes.
I have a question too. So Bill, what museum is not coming back or is closing for good, did you say?
Well, the Museum of Art from Pacific Street, they moved to La Mirada, and it's, I don't know what the current status is, but I think they've given up. You know, they had $1 a year lease on Pacific Street, and they're making a commitment to do all in La Mirada. They bought the parking lot right behind Mercedes-Benz. So
Wow.
Inga, do you know, have they moved out permanently yet?
No, I don't know that they've done that yet.
That's a
No,
biggie. I didn't know
That is,
that.
but there's,
I'll find out from Stuart.
Yeah, I talked to Hans about a month ago, and right away there's sort of a vacuum that some of the art galleries would like to move in. I was thinking sort of like the, if you've been to, I think it's on Dolores Street, the Carmel Art Association.
Yeah.
A tremendous, it's like an art museum. They have artists on consignment. So
Yeah.
I hope that it's something that would generate the public, because it's a great building. It's owned by the city.
That's a huge building too. That's a big space.
Yeah.
With that sculpture garden next to it. Yeah, that's big.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
So the way
Any other comments? Oh, go ahead.
the way I was thinking of it is sort of Colton Hall is the priority because it's sort of the flagship museum, and then Presidio would be next, and then PBL will need to kind of keep evaluating that, and Alvarado Gallery, if our staffing levels return and or improve, then that might be a possibility. But in the meantime, it is an opportunity to display some of our city art.
You know,
Another problem you may have is the requirement for social distancing when you reopen these museums, because I can see doing that for Colton Hall, not for the lab. I don't see how you can possibly keep people apart. And the Presidio Museum is sort of the same problem. It's a very small space, and you're going to have a problem opening it and letting 2 or 3 people in at the same time.
Right. So I think there are probably going to be guidelines about just letting in a certain number at a time, and then having to probably have signage about social distancing and so forth. So it'll be tricky, but
I think one of the big pluses during the virus has been the fact that Coupa Malera is open. Their gardens, plus their Alta Bakery, which also serves beer. And so I think it's important, Inga, what you could do to help coordinate. If Coupa Malera is going to be open 7 days a week, and what's her name? Who the staff person there used to be there? Oh, Susan Klusmeyer.
Right, exactly.
So if somebody comes to Coupa Malera, they ought to be able to pick up a sheet and says, Colton Hall was open and on Pacific Street. Casa Serrano is open by Monterey History and Art. Custom House is open on these days by State Parks. And so that at all those locations, they sort of provide public relations for the other ones so that the visitor knows which ones. And I personally would support more days being open at Colton Hall with less hours, if that's at all feasible. I agree with the Monday. I mean, they have to have some time off probably, but it would be nice to have, because Colton Hall has always been the one museum in the whole city that's open every day. No state parks, no history and art, just Colton Hall. And now, of course, Coupa Malera.
Mm-hmm. Other commissioner comments?
Yeah, I think that this is.
But what happens to our list of priorities? Do we need to go through that and reevaluate our priorities at this point?
So is that the list that is in this report?
I didn't get a physical copy of the report, and I'm having trouble finding it online. So,
Well, so it says the division after I wrote down the mission statement, I said, to accomplish this, the division set the following goals. 1, to share, preserve, and promote Monterey's history and cultural heritage. 2, communicating through services, programs, events. And 3, to create meaningful cultural and historic experiences and connections for our residents and visitors.
Oh, that sounds like a mission statement. We
Yeah,
have
that doesn't sound like priorities. Okay.
we have a document that has a number of priorities, goals for accomplishing things like the lower Presidio, getting the stables gone and that area replaced, and
So your strategic plan, is that it?
yes, that's right.
Okay, so yeah, we should look at the strategic plan and see.
Well, we did at the last meeting, and in the minutes, John and I were supposed to get together as a committee of 2 and go over that and then come back to the commission, but we've been unable to meet because
I wonder if the
closures.
I wonder if the 2 of you could meet with me. We could do it remotely, and we could look at the strategic plan in light of what we know now with COVID-19 and social distancing and so forth, and see how we need to modify it, if we need to modify it.
Yeah. I think
That's okay with me.
So that's
I certainly have the time.
so it's John and John.
Yes. And of course, it's going to change constantly, so we can do it. And then we just need to be aware that as soon as they change the guidance to us, we may have to do it again.
Well,
Right.
it's a lot of it's budget driven too, so you gotta,
That's right, yeah.
component.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that there are going to be some new guidelines coming out on June 12th about museums, but I don't know what those are yet. So that'll be interesting to see. I know outdoor museums guidance has come out, and we do, we have our virtual tour, the phone tour, but the brochure about all the monuments at the lower Presidio, that's definitely something to be promoting right now for people who come to Monterey. They want to see something about its history, and they find that the museums are closed, or many of the museums are closed. They could still walk the lower Presidio Historic Park and look for all those monuments. Okay, so in the midterm staffing plan, the idea would be if we could restore the cultural arts assistant position as a regular RPT position. And because Chalet's been with the city for 18 years with the museums and cultural arts program for 18 years, she has a lot of institutional knowledge as well. So by moving her back into a RPT, regular part-time 30-hour-a-week position, you get more of her knowledge, and then that frees up another 20 hours of part-time, or you can bring in another one of the part-timers that is very knowledgeable about museums. So I think that would be great. She not only, of course, I'm sure you're more aware of all the things she works on probably than I am, but in addition to doing all the art coordination and concerts and so forth, she, is able to do a lot of cataloging of our collections and that sort of thing as well. And then in midterm, we would want to be bringing back our retirees as advisors, or if we're not able to do that, even as volunteers if possible, to work on some special projects. Like, for instance, Dennis might be interested in working on the Path of History, or he probably has some other ideas about which of your priorities would be one of the things that he would want to get to work on first. And then, of course, more, looking at ways that we can generate revenue. So that's really the challenge, and I know that the library has that challenge too, is going forward. We just know that in addition to city funds, we really need to increase the private support that we get for running our programs in the library. And I think that museums, you know, it's going to be very similar with museums as well. And finally, there might be some nonprofits that would want to help us run some of our facilities, or if not run them, at least help with interpretation and special events and marketing and that sort of thing. So not to pick on the old Monterey Foundation, Bill, but since you're here, you know, maybe they would want to partner with us. I know they've been so involved with Lower Presidio, but maybe they would be able to contribute, you know, for a year, some funding for some hours for somebody like Dennis to advise or something like that. So I think we need to sort of look at those kinds of partnerships as well.
Yes, I think in particular, we've talked about the problems with PBL, and it seems to me we ought to try to move to get a relationship with the Aquarium where they would basically take over that function. And that just seems to make an awful lot of sense to me. They have the talent and the background and the location that fits very well with the lab.
Mm-hmm. Have we made overtures with them about that idea in recent memory?
Yes.
And we've talked to their staff. I don't. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, Bill and I attempted to start down that road. We didn't get very far, but I am convinced. I think I gave everyone a copy of what Julie Packard had produced, you know, as her 35 years of experience and where are they trying to go. And
right.
That document, it seems to me, fits nicely with the lab, the Ricketts history, etc.
Mm-hmm.
I think
And that,
I think there's a good chance. Now they are like the city. They just lost an enormous fraction of their income. So, but they have perhaps some other sources that the city doesn't have.
Yeah, this might happen. I mean, this may have to go beyond our pay grade, Mike and mine, and get Hans and the mayor involved. And again, now's probably not the best time, but I think we have a well-maintained building. It's seismically retrofitted. It could fit in as a little jewel on Cannery Row. So I agree completely with Mike that this would be a good time to do that. I mean, not right now, but that sometime later on in the year.
And now there was a nonprofit that you were familiar with that had some interest in the lab as well, correct?
That's correct. We'll be meeting in the next week or so with the Western Flyer Foundation. They're the nonprofit organization that is retrofitting the Western Flyer ship that's being rebuilt up in Washington State, and that they're hoping to bring down more permanently here to the city of Monterey. So that's a potential lead as well.
Right, and the Western Flyer was the ship that was taken to Baja, right, by Steinbeck and Ricketts.
Right.
That's correct.
And so they might have an interest in working with us on the lab as well, because they want to find a home for Western Flyer here in Monterey. Has the commission had any like presentations from them before, or
No, I don't think
had
so.
any contact? Okay.
No.
So Hans and I are pursuing that option, and we'll be providing Inga and all of you with an update once we learn more from the group.
Thank you. That's good news.
Great. And Nat, what are your thoughts about the aquarium?
It's
as a
it's worth
partner?
it's worth exploring. Absolutely. I mean, at this time, any kind of partnership or opportunity to collaborate is one that we should explore, given the limited resource that the city has through this fiscal crisis. Mhm.
Great, thank you. There are other suggestions or questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
Inga, as you were going through that report under Colton Hall, you said that the commission could decide on the hours that it would be open.
Right.
And so could we put that on the agenda next time?
Yes.
So that we can discuss it and come to a conclusion?
And then in the meanwhile, I should do some legwork finding out what hours the state parks, state historic parks are planning to open their facilities, and get the hours from Susan Klusmeyer for their Alta Bakery and so forth. National
That
Trust.
would be very,
Okay.
I think it is important to send a message to the council. They'll be meeting next Tuesday on the budget. And again, and I don't know if it needs a motion or whatever, but that museums are important. They're important to our own local people, but they're also important to the tourists, especially that segment that's very much interested in heritage tourism. I mean, people look at Monterey sort of like they look back east at Charleston or parts of Philadelphia and that. For West Coast, Monterey is very important historically, and they want to see those museums and be able to go into them. So don't discount the fact that you did one survey of local people and the museums did not rank that high. That's not an overall picture. Museums are very important.
So one of the things that came up at the last council meeting is the council was interested in using some one-time money, $1.3 million, to help museums, library, and recreation and sports center, because they looked at the cuts that those parts of the city were receiving, and they saw they were so much larger than other parts of the city. So $1.3 million was set aside, and I don't know if the commission has any recommendation for how a small portion of that could be used to really strengthen the museums and cultural arts program above what we have, above the $150,000 budget.
Well, I think you have to bring somebody back to be on deck to coordinate those kind of things. So if it's
Chalet,
somebody else, I think where they need to find a chunk of dough to do that. Because without a staff member dedicated to it, it's not going to happen. I mean, you've got plenty of things to do, I'm sure. Yeah.
Right. I need a staff partner to, work with me on this and work with you on this, I think. So restoring.
I think Bob is
Chalet's position.
Yeah, I agree with Bob also.
Yeah, I think we need a high priority on getting Chalet back.
Yes, agreed.
Is that everybody on the commission?
Yeah.
Have we heard from everybody?
anyone not agree with that?
Agreed.
I don't see anyone not agreeing.
Okay, sounds unanimous. Okay. Great.
Any other questions or comments for Inga?
Are we going to meet June 22nd in the same way, Inga?
So, well, that's a good question, because it does seem like we came up with a bunch of things that we'd like to have on our next agenda, and the next regularly scheduled meeting would be June 22nd. How do people feel that that would be sort of right after, hopefully, the council has adopted the budget for next year, and then there are a number of things that we want to look at. What do people think?
But will you have enough time to put stuff together? I mean, it's not that much time to get a packet out.
Right, it's not, but I think as long as you're not expecting extensive reports, then.
I have a question. Is there any possibility of meeting in person in the city council chambers while maintaining social distancing? Since we generally have an audience.
So that's a good question for Nat, because I know Nat, other commissions have been wondering about that as well.
Yeah, we haven't made any final decisions yet as to when. What we're trying to encourage, even within our city employee team, is if we can maintain that social distancing, let's try to do that by having as much remote work as possible. We're figuring out that we can continue to do business for the most part as much as we can remotely, and the same goes for commissions, especially considering how many are vulnerable populations, and we really do want to, while we all would love to go back, and I'd love to have meetings back in the Few Memorial Hall of Records, it does add risk, and so we want to just make sure, and we'll actually see over the next couple of weeks whether we're going to have a peak in number of cases or not, but we just don't want to be premature if we don't need to in having public meetings physically. So the short answer to that is probably through the end of the month, we'll probably still continue with these virtual meetings. And if we notice that, and the state feels that having group meetings is safe, then we'll go ahead and open that up. But right now, even conferences, even in small scales, aren't being brought back yet. So that's a long answer to a short question.
Okay, thanks.
One of the things that I've experienced from having the library board of trustees meetings held this way is it seems like a lot more people wind up watching the meetings because it's recorded, and then if people didn't know at the time to watch it, they will see the recordings on AMP. So you actually get more exposure this way, and then that's good, especially in a situation like this with museums, where I don't know that it's really widely understood throughout our community just how heavily impacted our museums and cultural arts program has been by the cuts that are proposed to city council.
To follow up on the question, is there enough time to get ready?
Yeah.
If we need more time, would it be a problem just to slide it a week? Since it's, what's it going to be, 2 weeks? We're going to meet again? Does it matter?
I'm wondering, Francesca, are you there? Can you chime in on that idea?
It is correct. I am here, yes. But
Okay.
it is 2 weeks away, and it would be dependent upon the schedules of the commissioners, whether to move it to June 29th versus the 22nd.
The 29th? Can people do the 29th?
I'll check, but I'm pretty sure I'm free.
I think so.
You will hear the silence.
Are you going to be gone, Bill?
I am, but I'm gone the 22nd too, right now.
Okay.
So please go ahead without me.
When do you get back, Bill?
After July 6th. And that's dependent on the airlines. Who knows? They're changing every day.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so
Well,
maybe the
I think-
29th would be more reasonable.
Yeah, in an effort to be kind to the new staff, I give you a little
Okay,
bit more
well,
time.
thank you. I would appreciate that.
Okay.
Okay.
All righty.
Francesca, is anybody from the public connected to us?
There is not anyone who has called in. We can open it right now if somebody is viewing and would like to comment on that item about the budget. The number to call is 831-225-0330. You'll then enter 1927648 followed by the pound sign. And once again, that number is 831-225-0330 followed by the number 1927648 pound.
I think
Thank
it would
you.
be helpful if you had a sign as well.
Actually, AMP does do that, thankfully. They put the Chiron and information across the screen. We just don't see it on our side, but the viewers do see it.
Okay,
And
Good.
there are no callers at this time.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah.
So we'll close public comment and see if the commissioners have any more questions or comments. Inga, do you have anything else?
Chair O'Neill,
Yes.
there is somebody who has called in.
Ah, wonderful.
I will go ahead and unmute this caller. And we appreciate if you do turn off any background audio if you might be listening to this meeting. And you are live now with the Museum and Cultural Arts Commission. Are you there? Hello?
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, my name is Sam. I'm a historian. I've been listening to your meeting and I concur with your ideas that you've been doing hiring Lloyd Booker to as the first priority and trying to see if you can still connect. It's a very tough moment for you guys to deal with the situation, but I'm all for your getting the cultural programs back on the we in the community of folk life are getting this so I just want to sympathize with. So I think you guys are doing a great job and keep up the good work and thanks for listening to we'll help get things back to normal.
And would you, thank you for calling. Would you mind repeating your name, please?
My name is Cameron Binkley.
Oh, yes, Cameron.
Cameron.
Thank you for calling, Cameron.
Thank you so much.
And that's the only one,
Yes.
I'm assuming?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
Cameron
thank you
is
for the report.
Cameron's with the Presidio if you didn't catch that.
Thank you. Yes.
Well-
Okay, we can go around and ask the commissioners for any final comments.
Alphabetical again.
Why not?
I have kind of an off-topic question, and that is, as of June 12th.
They've been waiting for years to buy a house.
Hello? I'm hearing somebody else. Okay, my question is, as of June 12th, gyms and fitness centers are allowed to reopen. Does that apply to the sports center?
So Nat could probably answer that. I know that they're working really, really hard to reopen in some capacity.
They are, in fact, so the sports center is one of the types of businesses that will be able to reopen based on the governor's updated shelter-in-place order as early as Friday. But both ourselves as well as other gyms in Monterey are working on plans to figure out what that date of reopening is based on staffing levels. Our team, I'll be meeting with them and number of other folks tomorrow as we look. They've already moved, the dedicated staff at the sports center has already moved quite a few equipment from both the weight room as well as the cardio workout room into the gymnasium to allow for social distancing. But at this time, a lot of it is dependent upon a few equipment upgrades that are taking place, ensuring that there's enough staffing to support the demand, and identifying what hours they will be, how also when the deep cleaning will take place. Part of the challenge is we haven't seen detailed guidance from the state in terms of what the reopening of a gym looks like and how do we meet that criteria. So stay tuned. It certainly won't be Friday, but hopefully it'll be before the end of the month that we're able to have the sports center back at least on at least a few hours, if not more than that, each day.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I
So
think we
moving-
should thank Inga and Francesca for getting us back in meetings. We've missed this, and a lot of things I think do need to be worked out. So maybe by the end of this month, we'll have a lot more ideas of how to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Bob, you have any comments?
No, other than to also second Mike's thanks. I'm delighted that we got back together, and I'm delighted that we're going to have another meeting at the end of the month, because I think there's lots to do.
Yes.
Kimber?
Well, I just want to say, being one of the non-retired people with kids at home, it's really tricky to you don't know what's going to happen in the background when you're at home. So everything went fine, but I'm really looking forward to being back in the council chambers. And it's great to see everybody.
You know, I'm disappointed none of you have dogs. Yeah.
Kathleen, do you have any comments?
It's just good to see you all. I do have a dog and she's snoring in the background. So if you hear this like low rumble, like train noise or thunder, that's my bulldog.
Oh,
No, yeah, it's just, I put her on camera, but I can't exactly prop her up. So anyway, it's good to see you all and to be talking about the city of Monterey again. I like that.
Thank you.
you.
Bill?
Good seeing everybody, and thanks to Inga and Francesca for putting this together.
Thank you.
Mike, you've already made a comment, I think?
Yes, all done.
Okay. Well, I would like to thank Nat for joining us and Adam for doing the AMP part for us, and Inga, all the work you did to get ready for today. And Francesca, we've had a couple of exchanges to make sure that this would go as smoothly as possible, and it did. And so I thank you all, and thank all the commissioners for participating today. It's good to be doing it again. And we are going to miss Mike and Claire. Dennis and Claire.
Dennis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you all. And yep, Francesca and I are looking forward to working with you. And we won't be able to fill the shoes of Dennis and Claire, but we'll do our best. And I know we'll be able to do great things.
Good attitude.
you.
We can.
Yeah, we appreciate having you. Thank you for taking it on. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
How did we say goodbye?
Well, we have to adjourn.
Oh, we have
Where's
to
the
adjourn.
end?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Do you want to make a motion?
Oh, you don't need a motion.
Okay,
Okay.
where's
we'll
the
adjourn.
end meeting?
Thank you all. It's 5:38 p.m.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Where's the end button? Seriously.
For you.
Is it
So Was the motion approved and everything?
Yes,
Then
we
if
didn't,
we're
we
ready
didn't
to
make a
go.
motion. We
No,
just
yeah.
said goodbye. Where's,
He adjourned it.
so seriously,
Right in the
where's
middle,
the,
Kathleen, right in the middle, there's that red, it looks
oh,
like
I see it. Got
yes.
it. Thank you very much. Bye.
Welcome, bye.
Bye-bye.
Good job, John.
This right here.
It's different,
Thank you, Kodiak.
different thing.
And
Oh, Cody, I'm sorry. Did I say Adam?
Yeah.
Kodiak.
And it was actually Mario covered us today. He was
Mario,
just-
okay,
So, all good.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
thank you. All right,
We'll
bye,
be in touch.
everyone. Have a good
Thank you.
afternoon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks for your time. Bye.
Well, I guess I'll just close it.